Now, welcome to another lightning response video, where this time we have a question from George Chacon, though honestly I have been getting asked about this for the past day or so now. Anyway, the question is, hey Thor, did you hear George Lucas's comments on how Disney is so great and supported his shares to it, saying amateurs can't make magic? What are your thoughts on this and how disappointed are you with his support of Disney Star Wars? Alright, so I'm going to assume most people know what this is in regards to the proxy fight at Disney, which is essentially, to put it in the simplest terms because I am no expert on this sort of thing, but Disney shareholders will essentially be voting on the future of Disney, how it is going to be managed going forward. Again, hopefully most of you know about this or have seen videos or will go watch videos or read articles to understand this full context. But all you need to know is that George Lucas, who is a major shareholder, I believe one of the biggest, he has put his support behind Bob Iger. Along with this, he released a statement which I will read in its entirety now. Creating magic is not for amateurs. When I sold Lucasfilm just over a decade ago, I was delighted to become a Disney shareholder because of my long-time admiration for its iconic brand and Bob Iger's leadership. When Bob recently returned to the company during a difficult time, I was relieved. No one knows Disney better. I remain a significant shareholder because I have full faith and confidence in the power of Disney and Bob's track record and driving long-term value. I have voted all of my shares for Disney's 12 directors and urge other shareholders to do the same. Alright, so first of all, once again, I am no expert on this sort of thing, so take my opinion as what it is, which is the opinion of an uneducated person in these matters. That said, what bothers me most is probably the very first thing said here, that creating magic is not for amateurs. That is probably the most disappointing thing I could imagine someone like George Lucas saying, considering how much inspiration he has given to amateurs or to young people, or to people with just a dream of creating their own, not necessarily Star Wars, but their own stories for people to share and enjoy. It's kind of sad to hear that guy back the corporate approach, which is what I would argue is one of the big problems with the creative process today, that it is not a creative process, that what we get in the world of entertainment is oftentimes a corporate engineered piece of content and not a passion-driven story. So for him to say something like that, for a guy who knows what it's like to fight Hollywood, for example, he hates Hollywood, or has said in the past that he doesn't like to play by their rules. He's always been mad that they chopped 5 minutes out of American Graffiti, that they did it just because they could on him. And so again, to hear that guy say something like that is just very disappointing. It's very sad as someone who has always admired George Lucas, who's always defended George Lucas from people who have said negative things about him, which it's your right to do. But I've always seen the guy as a pretty down-to-earth, humble guy who just likes telling stories. And speaking of that, and addressing him, putting his support towards Bob Iger, and basically saying some pretty nice things about Disney here, I don't know that I'm that surprised, because I don't know that George Lucas really cares that much about what is being done to Star Wars today. Or maybe I should rephrase that to say, I don't know that there's anything he could possibly do about what has already been done to Star Wars. Now, yeah, you can love it all you want. I know there are people out there who love Disney Star Wars, that's fine. But there are many people who feel like it is crapped all over the legacy of George Lucas, that this is not George Lucas Star Wars or what he would have done or what he would have wanted to see done. And sure, he sold it, his bad, his fault, I get all that. But I think he's come to the point at the age of 79 years old, and keeping in mind he sold it because he wanted to spend time with his family. I know there's this belief out there he sold it because of the backlash to the prequels and all this stuff. In all reality, the man got remarried at like the age of 67. He had a baby and he wanted to spend time with that family, and I cannot, and nor should anyone else, fault him for wanting to spend time with his family over creating Star Wars until literally the day he died. And I know there have been many rumors or theories or just people making it up that George Lucas is going to somehow come back and he's going to save Star Wars. He wants to buy it back from Disney or all these other crazy things, which there is absolutely no proof or evidence of, and that this statement, I believe, pretty much destroys there ever having been a thought in his head of doing this. Anyway, what I'm basically getting at here is, again, I don't think it's that he doesn't care about Star Wars, but I don't think he wants to devote his life to it anymore. He never wanted to devote his life to it. I don't think he, in his wildest dreams, I've talked about this before, I don't think he ever imagined Star Wars would be this, beyond just this massively successful movie, but become something that is adored and loved by millions of people. It has taken on a life of its own. And I think part of the reason why he sold is because he wanted to see that life carry on. He wanted to see Star Wars carry on. And he certainly may have picked the wrong company, the wrong way for it to carry on through Disney, but I don't think he feels like there's anything he can do about it. I don't know. I get why people are pissed off about this. I get why people feel he has betrayed them or he has sold out to Disney, even though he already had sold out to Disney. I get all that, but I don't know. I'm just not surprised by this. I know I'm kind of rambling, but I think he's just, again, I think the guy is done with Star Wars. He gave it his all. His legacy will always be those first 6 movies, and he might be very disappointed with what Disney has done with it. But honestly, what is he going to do about it at this point? And I know there will be people in the comments who disagree and say he should have done this, he should have done that. But the guy has given us Star Wars, right? That's something in itself that I think we need to remember. We wouldn't be here arguing about this if it wasn't for George Lucas in the first place. And that's not to say I'm happy with his decision per se. I would love to see Disney manage Star Wars better. Of course I would. I would love to see Lucas come back and try to play a part in saving it somehow, if that's even possible at this point. But I don't know. That's my take. Not surprised. I think the guy just wants to move on with his life and wanted to move on with his life years ago. I think, yeah, he wanted to see the sequels made the way he wanted them made. I think that has a lot to do with why Kathleen Kennedy was his choice as president of Lucasfilm before he sold it. I think he thought he could have controlled her kind of from the sidelines, or that she would come to him and want his advice and could kind of run it via proxy in a sort of way, or just kind of be involved in the things he wanted to be involved in and have his influence over it still. But when that didn't happen, he got angry. We all have heard the white slaver comments that he has said about Disney, how they just kind of take it and use it as they will. And I'm certainly not saying that anger wasn't justified to at least some degree. In Bob Iger's own book, he talks about how he may have sort of misled George Lucas into believing his sequel trilogy was going to be made. And it was even part of the reason why he signed, why he sold, because he was under this impression. I also again think, as I was just saying, that he was probably under the impression, and probably given this impression again by Iger, that of course they would come to him often for direction. Of course you would want the guy who made Star Wars involved with making more Star Wars until he was unwilling or unable to do it anymore. And I don't think that was the case at all. I don't think they really wanted his input. He's even talked about how they really haven't come to him all that much for Star Wars input. And so, for better or worse, right or wrong, I do think he's probably just kind of over it after 10 years or so now. And it's really not to say or imply I don't think he loves Star Wars or wouldn't want to see it get better or anything like that. But again, I really don't know what he would feel like he could do about it. And sure, he could have voted the other way, but there's no guarantee that would have worked out any better for Star Wars than the Disney way, which is kind of sad considering, no, Disney has not done very well with it, I'd argue. So again, probably not the take a lot of people want to hear, but it's my honest, raw take. I didn't obviously write a script here. I'm just kind of rambling off the top of my head. And so now it is your turn to take to the comments below and tell me what you think and how you feel about this one. Whatever it is, let's talk some Star Wars, and until next time, thanks for watching.